and you go line by line and see what your variables are. Well, my loop control variable is k, so I want that to be in my table. Any other variables in this program? I look through the program, no other variables, check. So the next column in my trace needs to be my condition. So my condition is k less than or equal to 15. And I got that from right here. My next column has to tell me whether that condition is true or false, which tells me whether I continue with execution of the loop or I exit the loop. The next column needs to be any output to the screen that is either generated by the program or by the loop or by the entire program. So now that my trace is set up, I go ahead and go into the code and start line by line evaluating the values in my for loop. So my first line of code is output, and it prints the title of the program. My second line of code is my for loop with its condition. So k is set up, int k has an initial value of 1. So I'm going to go down in my k column and initialize k to 1. Then I go into my condition for a for loop. So my condition is k less than or equal to 15. I replaced my k in my condition with my value that is in memory right now. So k is 1 less than or equal to 15. And I test that condition right now. Is 1 less than or equal to 15 true or false? It is true. Since that's true, I'm going to drop into the program to execute the code that follows the loop. So I have a print statement, and I'm going to output the value that it's in k concatenated with a string literal that's a space. So now my output is going to be, the value that's in k right now in memory is 1. So my output is going to be 1, and my cursor will be waiting right here with a space. That's the end of the for loop. Since there's no curly braces, I just execute the single line that follows the loop, the control structure, and then I come back into the loop, and now I increment my loop control variable k. I increment by 1 because you learned in chapter 2 that plus plus means add 1 to a variable and store that value back in the variable, right? Okay, so I'm going to add 1 to k. 1 is gone forever, and now k is in memory as 2. Now I go back to, after it's incremented, then I go to my condition. Now my condition says, is 2 less than or equal to 15? Is that true or false? True. Since that's true, I drop back into my loop right here, and I print again, k, let's erase this so that you can see it. I go back into my loop again, and I print the value of k. Well, the value in k that's in memory right now is what? 2. So it's 2, and so I'm going to print 2. And my cursor moves forward because I am on the same line because this is print, not print line. So that prints. I go back into the loop and increment k. So now 2 is gone forever, and now 1 is added to k, and k is 3. Then I go test my condition. So now is 3 less than or equal to 15? True or false? Since it's true, I execute the code for the loop. The code is to print the value that lies in k right now. So the value in k right now is 3 with a space. So now my cursor's waiting right there. The end of the loop structure, and I go back again into increment k. Increment, test the condition. True or false? True. So execute the code for the loop. K is now 4. Concatenate with a space, and my cursor is waiting here. Now, how many times do I go through this increment and test? What value does K have to have? 16. So I'm going to trace through this until K has a value 16. When K is 16, it will have incremented, and then I do need to test that value. So now my condition says, is 16 less than or equal to 15? True or false? Since that's false, what's going to happen is the loop stops. So I write stop whenever my condition gets to false, so that I understand when the condition is false, it means the iteration stops. Once the iteration stops, either the code, all of the code that has been executing either in the block or the single line will be skipped, and the program goes and finishes execution. And that's your first trace for a for loop. Okay, let's trace through this one. So now we have a loop control variable, K, that is initialized to what value? 1. Then we have K less than or equal to 10 is my condition. And test is 1 less than or equal to 10. Is that true or false? Since it's true, I'm going to execute the entire block enclosed by the curly braces. So first, I have a print statement of all pound signs. So if this is my output, I'm going to make all of this output. I have however many pound signs that is printed on a line. Okay, and then the next line that executes says line number as a string literal, concatenate with the value in memory, which right now the value in memory for K is 1. And then this is a print line, so my cursor is waiting on the next line for me. End of the loop. So the compiler comes back up here and says, okay, I need to change the value of K. So now K changes by 1 because we have a post condition increment. So K plus 1 is 2. Then I test my condition. 2 less than or equal to 10 is true or false. Since that's true, I drop into the block again and execute each line. That means I have another line of pound signs. And a print statement that prints the word line number. Concatenated with the value that's in memory right now of K is 2. End of the for executable code in the curly braces. Come back in and increment K. 3, test my condition, true, and both print statements will print again. So how many times will this execute?
10 times.
Until K is 11, right? Because the condition must test to false. 11 less than or equal to 10 is false. You write stop. The program skips through the entire block for the iterative process for the executable statements and goes to the last line, which is an empty print statement, and ends the program.